Good evening. It's Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, and this is Bob Leonard Show. We'll be with you for about an hour, and we take the stories you've been reading about in the newspaper and watching on television this past week, and we give you the background of these stories. We put our spin on it. We interpret what we believe to be the real facts of the story, something you don't get from the mainstream press always. So that's what this story or this program's all about. Now, we repeat this program on Friday night from 8:30 to 9:30. But I think this coming Friday may be the last time that will happen. They're going to change that repeat show to another time. We don't know what it is yet, but we'll let you know as soon as we know. So this program will be repeated Friday night from 8:30 to 9:30 as we usually do. But after that, there'll be a change, and we'll have to get back to you on the dates and the times of that change. The Tuesday night program that you're seeing tonight will remain the same from 8 to 9. But anyway, like we tell you every week in regard to this story and this program, you know, all these comments we make are only our opinion, and, you know, you can accept or reject them. We try to check them out and go to the background and look at it, the facts, and bring them to you. And that's what we'll do tonight, and we do every night. You know, tonight we want to discuss the real story behind the controversial memo of understanding entered into by the parties in the confrontation between the African American police officers League and Flint Mayor Don Williamson and Chief of Police Gary Hagley. I'm sure you've been hearing about this all week. We told you about this meeting and this session 2 weeks ago, and that there would be a press conference on it. We had the memo of understanding. We showed you what it was here the last couple of weeks, but now it's coming out publicly for the first time. And the question you have to ask is, has the problem been settled so that there is a closure in the dispute, so that the protagonists can move forward to work for improving of our citizens' safety and quality of life? Certainly the mainstream press indicated that, and they certainly suggested. And you have to ask, is this really a facade of wishful thinking? You know, waiting for the other shoe to drop, as the real facts seem to indicate. We'll try to get to the bottom of this tonight and let you know what our thoughts are on it and why we think the way we do. Also, we might have some indication of what's going on or what's going to happen to the millage we voted for this past August to continue to fund our community police program. We've talked about that the last couple of weeks. We have a little bit of an update. And the question we ask, are there any indications blowing in the wind that the money raised by the millage is going to stop being misspent and be properly directed to the reestablishment of the community policing program in Flint? We may have some answers, some ideas for you tonight on this. But, you know, here's another matter that's been hanging in the bureaucratic oblivion for a couple of years now that needs to be answered. What has been going on regarding the repayment of the back wages paid by the old city council to themselves illegally when Don Williamson took over the city as mayor? Remember, these were wages that Ed Kurtz, the state financial manager, took from the council members when he was appointed by the governor to get Flint out of its horrendous debt. You know, the public supported that. Everybody was cutting back, but the council didn't, and they objected. They went to court. They lost in court, costing us tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. It was clear. Their pay was retroactive. What they did, and over the loud protests of the Flint citizens, the old council took nearly $200,000 total after Kurtz left and Williamson took over, and paid themselves retroactive pay that had been taken from them by Kurtz in a clear violation of the state constitution. When they were asked to return it, because it was illegally gotten by them, 4 of them just kind of refused. They weren't going to do anything. Now, Attorney General Cox then brought a lawsuit to force them, these 4 people, to return the money. The circuit court entered an order pursuant to Cox's lawsuit about 2 years ago that the money was taken illegally and had to be returned to the taxpayers of Flint. We FOI'd the information from the city of Flint. We got the information about who's paid, who hasn't paid. Now, one of the things that you should remember that former Councilman Lawrence Murphy and Matthew Schlinkard refused to back pay. They themselves thought it was wrong in the first place. And so they had nothing to pay back. Now, Cox did make demands of all of the council people to pay the money back, and as soon as he made the demand, Councilwoman Peggy Cook immediately paid back her retroactive pay. It was about $25,000 plus interest. She paid the interest. And then Council President Darrell Buchanan and Councilman Scott Kincaid have set up reimbursement payment plans and are presently repaying the back wages. And this was acceptable to the Attorney General. Either you pay it directly, the total amount, or you can pay it on a payment plan. However, former Councilman Al Horrigan, Ed Taylor, Johnny Coleman, and the present 5th Ward Councilwoman Carolyn Sims have not repaid their retroactive salaries. They had illegally paid themselves, and this was according to the law, according to the courts. You know, 2 years, these people have just not responded. In my opinion, I believe the only way you're going to get our money back from these former councilmen and the present 5th Ward Councilwoman, Carolyn Sims, is the city or the Attorney General will have to sue them. Get a judgment and attach their bank accounts or put liens on their property. And why not? It's our money. You know, at least these other people who have paid it back, like Cook and Buchanan and Kincaid, aren't thumbing their nose at the system and or at the Attorney General or even at the Constitution. The money still owed is probably about $100,000. And it belongs to the taxpayers and should be returned. And why should no one go after this? Why isn't the city proceeding after this money? It belongs to the city. Why isn't the Attorney General following up on his lawsuit that he won in court that said they had to pay it back? Is there some kind of professional courtesy going here between public officials? You know, they take care of themselves. You know, the money belongs to the citizens of Flint. Now here's an interesting sidelight here. In a letter to the editor in the Journal last night, supporting Sims, the writer of the letter said she was a longtime friend of Councilwoman Carolyn Sims. And she praised Sims and says that she was a hard worker for the council, for the people of the Flint, and she's helping Flint move forward. Here's a couple of her comments that she made here. Ask yourself, this is the writer saying this, should I be mad at her or the person preventing her from doing her job? She's talking about mad at Sims. Remember, if you don't stand for something in life, you will fall for anything. That's clever. And those of you who have signed petitions to recall Carolyn have fallen for anything. You do not have to recall someone to have change. Change can start by setting a positive example in the community. I'm all for that. The first thing she ought to do to show positive example is pay back the money she owes the taxpayers. About 25 grand. You know, I've been watching these meetings down there in the city council for many years. And I can say to you without hesitation that Carolyn Sims is one of the most divisive members on that council today. You know, if she's interested in cooperating and doing what is in the best interest of Flint taxpayers, she should start by paying back the money she took illegally to pay herself constitutionally prohibited retroactive pay. That's reasonable. You know, the city could use the money, $25,000 or whatever, to help hire additional police officers, but she keeps it in her pocket. You know, I wonder if this writer who wrote this letter to the editor extolling Sims's alleged virtues would have the same opinion if she knew that Councilwoman Sims had her hand in her pocket already. I mean, these people, I didn't realize there was a recall on her, but they ought to be asking that question, you want my vote? Pay the money back. Our money is in your pocket. Give it back. You didn't have any right to it in the first place, and the court said you didn't. The Constitution said you didn't, and the Attorney General said you didn't. So there's no justification for you keeping it. Now, this past week, Mayor of Flint, Don Williamson, had a press conference with the Flint police unions and the NAACP. And we told you about this thing going to happen about 2 weeks ago. It finally happened. Now, we want to give you some of the background on this, the orchestration of this press conference. When we broke the story a couple of weeks ago about this 10-hour session called by the U.S. Justice Department to deal with the mayor's apparent retaliatory action against the African American Police Officers League and the Flint Police Officers Union as such, for exercising their constitutional right to free speech and assembly. Now, we showed you that secret memorandum of understanding between the administration and the police officers and the NAAC that was the result of this session. Now, the council, or the police officers, complained to the city council meeting and were speaking out against the Williamson administration, the police administration, as racist. And then they voted no confidence in Deputy Police Chief Gary Hagler. That was the result of this response to the police officer's appearance at this meeting. You know, what's interesting about the TV reports and the comments of the participants in the conference, the news conference, was that everything was on the road to peaches and cream. And the question is it? We're going to show you a cut in a few minutes. We're going to show this first cut, and then we'll show you another cut. And we're going to show you the background and the heat that's been generated here. And then we're going to ask you whether you think everything's going to be all right. Here's the press conference situation. Can you play that, please?
12 News.
Tonight, weeks of fighting and lawsuits between Flint Mayor Don Williamson and the city's police union appear to be over as the two sides sign off on a new agreement of understanding. Good evening, everyone. I'm Angie Hendershot.
And I'm Bill Harris. The compromise agreement is the result of a mediation session with officials from the U.S. Justice Department last month. ABC 12's Dawn Jones live at police headquarters in Flint with details of this new spirit of cooperation. Dawn?
Well, hi there, Bill. Now, earlier today, Flint Mayor Don Williamson stood side by side with Flint's Police Chief Gary Hagler and leaders from two police officer unions and the president of the NAACP. It was at that meeting this afternoon that they unveiled details of this new spirit of cooperation. And here are some highlights of that plan. The two sides have agreed that a 50% oral and 50% written promotional exam will now be given to officers wishing to get a position of police sergeant here in the department. They also made a compromise on the mayor's plan to have all one-man police cars. The cars will still be one-man cars, but there will be two-man cars for third and fourth shifts. The K-9 unit has not been reinstated, but the two sides agreed to keep discussions open about the future of that unit. In a surprising move, the mayor agreed to drop entirely his 26-point restructuring plan, and in return, the union agreed to drop their lawsuit. There was a lot of give and take from both sides, and for the most part, there are no hindsight regrets, but there are concerns, and it all comes down to diversity in the department.
Blacks in higher command structure, hiring more blacks on the department, changing the testing procedure and so forth. Basically, and also a plan and a strategic plan to combat crime within the city.
But everyone agrees that the new spirit of cooperation is a good first step.
What we have done here is the right thing to do. Have we got it 100% finished? No. We got a long ways to go. But we made a lot of headway in the police department, in the streets.
We got some firm footing, and if things keep advancing like they have been, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. That's what we're hoping for.
Now the mayor, the police chief, and the union and the rank and file all say they are committed to providing the best public safety for the citizens of Flint, and they're hoping this new spirit of cooperation will help them do that. For now, we are live in Flint at police headquarters. Dawn Jones, ABC 12 News.
Now, getting to today's agreement has been a long process. At the start of this year, Flint officers didn't have a contract and hadn't had a pay raise in 8 years. Following lengthy negotiations, a deal was reached in February. Well, in September, the officers' union took a no-confidence vote in their chief, Gary Hagler. That same night, the mayor announced his plan to reorganize the department. Then last month, the union took the mayor to court, citing safety issues. Today's agreement ends that lawsuit.
New at 6.
Well, it really sounds good. Like this problem that has developed is pretty well settled. Everybody was upbeat, as you saw, except maybe some of the parties, and we'll get to that in the meeting. You know, the rest of the press conference was to suggest that all the participants were on the same page.